Yeah, well, that guy up there, he's not blowing his nose. Okay, he's on hold. You see this over here? Memory, storing and accessing information, the raw material of computation, has become so efficient that we're now approaching total recall. Magnetic core memory was one of the first ways to store information. The ferrite rings would be magnetized in either a clockwise or counterclockwise direction by the grid of wires, each ring representing a core, 1 or a 0. A 1 or a 0. This is like the first computer, man. This is what they look like, okay? If it was life size, look at how big my finger is. Okay, this is probably like, oh gosh, a few bytes of information. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 bytes. 100, 200, 250 bytes. That's not even 1K of storage. It's not even a K, man. Look how big it is. 1K of storage, okay? That's the first computer. That's how they did it. You know, if you jump ahead like 40 years, see what you got here? A generation of computers. Now, these were built about time when I was 15, back in 1901. Or a long time ago anyways, when those things were built. Now the computers that we work on, as big as this room, say, you know, the flagship products of IBM and DEC, HP, and Hitachi, they're huge. They're as big as a room, just like these. The only difference is they're 500 billion times as powerful. Look at this. See this picture? The core memory? Look at this. See that? That's like 1,000 times as powerful. 10, 20, 50,000 times as powerful as this. That's storage. It's incredible. I can stick it in my shirt pocket. I mean, I worked on that stuff, okay? That's how old I am. My point is, we've come a long way. This guy over here, listen to him for a second. See what he's talking about.
Anyhow, they went to the promised land and they developed a culture. I mean, they had nothing.
Just hang on. It's relevant, okay?
Okay. So, when they left, they developed an entire culture. And that message, Numbers 23:23, was a guy on a hill observing 600,000 men and all their women and children and everything, or whatever. A massive horde is what he called it, of people coming towards him. I think they are the Amorites. And he's saying, like, these people are going to destroy me. It's like a plague of locusts. They're going to just run over my town and destroy everything. So he was trying to prevent that from happening. And the guy he sent to...
The point is, what he's talking about, he's talking about Numbers 23:23. That's my twin brother talking on that video. He's talking about Numbers. Well, this thing is so out of focus, man. There, a little better. He's talking about Numbers 23:23. Look what God has done. And the significance behind that is Samuel Morse, who pretty much invented or developed the ability to harness lightning and send the very first text message ever in the United States, actually in America, back in the 1800s. That was the message that was sent, and that video is about that story. But my point is, it's been progressed all the way to the BlackBerry, American Telephone, and AT&T. What's the last T stand for? Telegraph, right? So it's really a telegraph. But where we're going with that is synthetic organisms. A synthetic organism that can emulate the features of a BlackBerry. It's little tiny microscopic things that are developed by our biomedical scientists that grow in such a way, and they're architected in such a way that they look kind of like that. Okay? But they can fit on the head of a pin. 1,000 of them. And by putting all those little guys together, they're able to reproduce the functions of a BlackBerry. You put them on the end of your finger. It's like a little ointment, you know. But it's got these microorganisms that have been developed in a space station near the moon or something like that. A little farm, a little tiny farm on a chip the size of a cracker. So you take this salve and you put it on your finger and then you rub it on your forehead. And those little microscopic cloned, whatever, developed organisms that we think are so fantastic, they reproduce, and they allow you the capability to use your banking systems and to surf the web. We don't even need an iPod or an iPhone or an iPad or whatever all those new products are coming out now. We just think it and it happens. Because of this little organism up here that we planted on our forehead. It interacts with our brain in such a way that if my brother was on my friends list, I could communicate with him. Text message, just like Samuel Morse, man, with the telegraph. It's basically just a highly sophisticated telegraph. But it's marketed as telepathy. See, because we've mastered telepathy. We just put this in our forehead and we could do all these things in the new world. And that's what man has done. Look what man has done. That's why Numbers 23:23 is so significant. Because that was when that first message was sent. And that text message that was sent over the telegraph with Samuel Morse, he had this girl, this guy was his friend in the patent office, and the guy had a daughter, and the daughter came to Samuel Morse and gave him the good news that Congress had approved the money for him to build the infrastructure to make that first text message on a telegraph. And in appreciation for her bringing him the good news, he said, because of that, I'm going to allow you to decide what is the first text message we're going to send on this telegraph that I'm inventing. And she spent like a year with her mom going through the Bible to find out an appropriate verse to send, and it ended up being Numbers 23:23. It's just, to me, when I first read it, that story, I could not fathom why they picked such a dry book in the Bible, Numbers. And I read it, and look what God has done. And I read the story, which is what this guy was talking about over here in the video. We looked at, he was talking about God and all these guys and Amorites and this horde of people and this big culture of people was going to overwhelm them, and so we wanted to get this guy to go curse him and so forth. That's Numbers 23:23. That's the whole story. But that specific verse, man, look what God has done as compared to what man has done. Over here, we know what man has done, and we know where he's headed. The significance behind it all is that's not telepathy. This is not telepathy, man. This is what man has done. What God has done is telepathy. And he made a nation out of a bunch of slaves that had been slaves for 400 years. And the symbolism behind it is he brought them out of slavery and gave them a culture and taught them about himself. You know, people say the Old Testament is God was mean, but you know what he said? In fact, it's in the Ten Commandments, but everybody kind of overlooks it. That the sins of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of those that hate. You know, if you got evil family heritage, you know, you're going to be cursed by that. But to those that love God, that curse is broken. He says, but I will love those for generations of those that love me and keep my commandments. I mean, that's in the Old Testament. So to some of this concept I'm trying to get across is that Numbers 23:23 is God's way. And this core memory and this flash memory and memory sticks and telegraphy is man's way. And telepathy is God's way, because telepathy is a form of prayer. So it's an awesome thing, and as the closer we get to the end of the world as we know it, it becomes more and more obvious. Way more and more obvious. Daniel chapter 12 verse 4. Daniel, close up and seal the words of the scrolls until the time of the end. Many will go here and there, and knowledge shall increase. Many shall go to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. However you want to look at it. Point is that knowledge that's increasing is spiritual knowledge. That's what it is. And we're getting it. And I'm thankful. So I hope this generates a message for you. I hope you get something out of it. It's okay to be high tech. But let's not repeat Tower of Babel. You know? Let's not repeat that and try to conquer the universe without God.